Hello there, and welcome to Sweet Child of Time. I'm your host, Steve Barnes, and we are recapping Dark. We're on Season 2, Episode 2, Dark Matter. And of course, our recap comes from oneofmystories.com, and here she is, the co-host, Lindsay Dunn. Ahoy there, Lindsay.
Ahoy, Steve. Are you ready to get into some dark matter?
Dark matter. I think so. I'm happy to see Helge is in this episode. I'd missed him last time.
A lot of our favorites are back. We've got some Helge, we've got some Gretchen, we've got some
Yes.
we've got some Egon, we got some Mikkel, we got some Ulrich. I mean, we got several players that haven't really shown their grimy little faces in a while.
Glad to see him back. I want to see Helge's little face, as a matter of fact. I want to see what happens to him when he wakes up in the 1986 room as, 1953 little boy Helge. I still want to see what happens from there. I hope we do later.
I doubt if it's anything good, though, because that's when he starts hanging out with Noah.
Well, I mean, shoot, are we going to see Noah, start shaping this, 11-year-old kid into being his henchman? Wow. That sounds interesting.
It's the sub-series known as The Grooming.
So it sounds like we're going to skip all that? I don't know. I hope they at least address it at some point. But let's see. Do you have any podcast business to start up before we get going with our recap, Lindsay?
I don't know. I heard a rumor that there were some positive comments, but maybe we'll get into those later in the episode. There were some positive comments from our fans.
Yeah, we got
our legions of fans.
Our legions. This is kind of actually weird. I don't follow this listener. No, I'm sorry. I do follow this listener. His name is Dylan E. I won't say his last name. I do follow him. He does not follow me back. He does not follow Barnestown or you either. I don't know how he got hold of us on Instagram. Maybe he was an old Introvoid guy. But yeah, Dylan, first off, he wrote a nice comment on the Spotify. So that always counts a lot when you give us a rating and a comment on the main, Spotify page. That's rad. But yeah, I'm vamping right here while I'm desperately looking for Dylan's message that he sent me, because he said a nice thing about you too, Lindsay, that you must hear. Here we go. Get ready to be embarrassed, Dylan, because I'm reading what you wrote. Okay, first off, he mentioned me in his story, and he wrote a nice comment. So I just saw that go by my stories. So I said, hey, thanks so much. Glad you like it. Super nice, etc. He said, oh, wait, he responds to something I said. I shouldn't glance over my own words like that. It's hard for me to wait each week to watch the next episode. I want to watch it all right now. But yes, super nice shout out, Dylan. Thank you. He says, I know it's outrageously seductive. The perfect series, honestly. Of course, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for producing this. Personally, I can learn and process the intricate details of the show, and every thought-provoking aspect is because it truly interests me, and certainly all others who delight in the show. You and your co-host, Lindsay, are so knowledgeable of the show. Are so knowledgeable of the show. I feel so in tune with you two while listening. Thank you so much for this. I told him that's great, and then I said it's great for me just to be able to talk to you, Lindsay. That makes it worth it for me. He says, yes, indeed. From what I've understood, she's on her 4th or 5th listen, so you and I both defer to you. Thank you. Good evening to you, Steve. That was from Dylan E. Thank you very much, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think we can start getting into our recap now. I didn't have any other news besides I've been on a bunch of other podcasts, but I'll talk about that at the very end when when they can just fast forward. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I defer to you, Lindsay.
So as we start the episode, it's 2053, kind of where we left off, I think, the last episode. And Jonas is trying to figure out a way to enter this blue and black pulsing blob that's happening that we are calling the God particle.
Sure.
Because it appears to be a time portal, and he's learning this from these recordings from Claudia Tiedemann, and that the particle must be stable and electrically balanced if someone is going to enter, that the generator lacks enough current, and Jonas feels frustrated, so he's out of fuel and ideas. And this made me question, I don't know, I had questions about this that weren't really answered or discussed. It's like, when did Claudia make these recordings? And she says things like, we have managed to stabilize the God particle. Well, who is we? And it seems to create a kind of portal which possibly allows for time travel. Based on what? Sending objects through the stabilized matter has already proved possible.
Right.
What objects did you send? and that we aren't sure what the energy source is. So Jonas, if he really stopped to think about some of these questions, he might think twice about this plan, but he just hears this possibility of time travel, and he seems to have this on his mind that, based on this recording, he's just throwing caution to the wind and he's going to go for it.
Sure, yeah, it seems like it. I mean, that's the only chance he has, there is no other than. This is like the only shot he's got, and it's right there in front of him. I don't know. I think that Claudia had plenty of time, because like the apocalypse, she said, happened June 27th, 2020. So, she would have been the older Claudia, but that gives her 33 years to like make these tapes. Between the time that Jonas finds them. I don't know. I understand your question. My first question when I saw this was, how does he know how to do all this stuff? Like he's super smart with all this equipment. Then I realized like it's exactly like a wastewater plant, and you have like all these controls and dials and different settings, and everything has to be just right. And if it's not, you have like hard copies. It's required to have like hard copies with flow charts of like how to keep it going. So, he understands schematics basically. And so, he's just basically getting all those dials just right, getting every detail perfect. I would be curious what they have sent through as well, but I still would be Jonas. I still would be trying to go through, I think. If I was that determined and that single-minded, I still think I would be trying to go forward.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's good television. If Jonas just decides, wait, there's too many unknowns. But I guess I'm saying what we've seen so far is that people are like, oh yes, there's time travel, but they don't really understand how it works, and they don't, and then they get stuck in the wrong time, right? So you would think maybe at this point, Jonas has already got sent to the wrong time once, Of course,
yeah, how does he even know where he's going? That's right. You just walk through and just cross your fingers?
I guess like you're saying, though, he's just like, it's better than just being here. Because right now I'm just hanging out, doing nothing. But I guess the main thing, yes, when she says we're sent objects through the stabilized matter, that doesn't sound like they sent people.
No,
are we talking about a pencil? And then she says, we have managed to stabilize the God particle. That's the other thing is it's like, who is this we? Who are these? You didn't really mention any other people. So how do you know the person you're listening to is trustworthy? They always say, check your sources. So it's just, I'm being super picky, but I like this. I still like this episode. I like this journey that Jonas goes on during this episode to try to make this thing work, because it's a little more action packed than normal, I think. So then it's June 22nd, 1987, 5 days until the apocalypse, and at the Conwald house, Mikkel wakes up in his room. And what's interesting is that well, there's many interesting things, but one of them is that Mikkel is sleeping in Jonas's room, which makes sense that this is the child's room.
But I said the same thing. I was like, why is Mikkel in Jonas? That's Jonas's bed. But I was like, wait a second, this is 87, so I guess it is Mikkel's bed after all, and Jonas sleeps in his daddy's bed. That's adorable.
Yeah. It sort of makes a little more sense than why, Jonas often has dreams about his dad when he's in his bed, you know? So it's like, this room is basically haunted with the spirit of young Mikkel. It's like, this is where he slept. And
right. Last episode, when he wakes up and young Mikkel's right next to him, that could have been right here.
Yeah. And I mean, we saw a couple episodes in like season 1 too, where he was seeing either his dad or young Mikkel in that bedroom in one way or another. So the wall has a Goonies poster and some sort of sports celebrity. Do you know who that person was?
I spent so much time Googling like World Cup, like, Germany, 1987. I came up with nothing. He's a sports star, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know who, but I saw the Star Command robot there at the foot of his bed. That's what caught my eye.
Yes.
That thing is like, he
and
doesn't need
comic books.
Oh, the comic books too. I'm talking about the Star Command robot that was at the foot of his bed. He doesn't need to do anything because you can, you like can make your voice sound like a robot, and you can like listen to the radio and sing along in a robot voice. Just stay in your room forever, Mikkel.
Yeah. Well, I wondered if the sports person was a tennis person.
Wimbledon. Okay.
Because he's wearing this tennis shirt. Like, it has tennis rackets and tennis balls on it.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't. No.
And this is a little bit of a far stretch, but I was thinking about how we know that Mikkel was obsessed with magic, right? And Harry Houdini.
Right.
Now he's taking on this new persona, right? And it's almost like his room is not his own, and that he's now, his new persona apparently likes tennis, doesn't like magic. So it's almost like he has this new identity of like, now I'm into sports. And, he,
Sure.
it makes me wonder if Inez has, the kind of influenced him to take on this tennis thing. I don't know. It was just weird that he was wearing this. It's like, he wasn't into tennis, he was into magic and skeleton costumes.
I'm guessing Inez is like giving him what she thinks a boy from 1987 would like. And I think she's like, oh, that's a popular movie, The Goonies. Oh, that's a popular sports guy, that guy. So I think maybe she might have decorated his room for him and put some stuff in there. And like those clothes he's wearing, those are not like Mikkel clothes. And Nez bought those dorky clothes from Kmart or whatever they shop at. He didn't choose those clothes, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think he did. But I'm just saying it almost seems like he's being dressed like a different kid.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes downstairs to find Inez buttering bread. She's making him a sandwich. She's wearing blue. He tells her that today is his mom's birthday. And she reminds him that the past is the past.
And now is now. I don't know what else to say about that.
Very sad Mikkel here.
I was just sad for his outfit.
He used to be such a cool kid. Now he's wearing tennis rackets. I mean, so we're now at the Tiedemann house, and Claudia is with Regina. Now it looks like, this is not the fancy Tiedemann house that we see in the 2019 and all that kind of stuff. This is like kind of like almost like a condo or a simpler Moss home, but it's on the same piece of property. We find that out later. It's on the same piece of property that will become the future home. So
yeah, Claudia makes mention of an extension being built to Bartosz last episode.
Yeah. So Claudia needs to arrive at the power plant early. So Egon arrives to drive Regina to school. And he wants to tell Claudia some news. She has no time to listen to that at the moment.
Yeah, bad timing for that. I know what he's going to tell her, and that was a bad timing thing. So I'm glad he didn't say anything then.
Yeah. But she never really had time for anything anyway. She doesn't even have time to drive her daughter to school, right? He's very surprised to see the dog and mentions how much the dog looks like Gretchen, and Claudia's like looking all freaked out and saying, absolutely not. You're crazy.
Yep. Deflect.
Yeah. And then Regina is looking kind of different.
Yeah. She's pulled herself together some. She's hanging out with Granddaddy now. Like, grandparents love to take their kids places. Like, they love to, I mean, if you ever need a ride, grandparents love doing that kind of thing. You were saying before last season that, you think Egon doesn't like kids. I think he likes kids. I think he likes this kid, right? It seems like he likes Regina.
Yeah, I mean, he's calmed down a little. Well, I guess it was just a year ago he was
he's retired now. That's
Ulrich.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, she's got her hair all smooth and not wearing her glasses, so
her eyes are popping. And they're getting rickrolled. Come on. You can't you weren't going to mention that?
I didn't. That comes up in another episode too, but I was like, they rickrolled us here too. How unfortunate. I mean, it's happening so much. So yeah, it's interesting how Claudia reacts to Egon about Gretchen. So I don't know. In some ways, Claudia is almost reminding me of how Charlotte acts in the 2019-20. Like, she's very much wanting to understand things herself first, but her relationship with her dad isn't that great. They're very estranged. But yeah, so this isn't the kind of thing where she's saying like, yeah, I think it is the same Gretchen, but she kind of like, not only does she act like not share that, but she's acting like she doesn't know what he's talking about. So right. She looks terrified that he brought this up.
Yeah, I think she is panicked. I don't think she expected that confrontation, and she didn't even think about the fact that he might recognize her, maybe, So I think I think she just kind of panicked in the moment, and it's 100% clear on her face. I mean, very clear, because, she could have done a much better job with that. She could have been like, I wanted to get one that reminded me of Gretchen. Case closed. I mean, that'd be a good disguise. Yeah.
Her outfit is quite amazing.
As usual.
This hot pink and blue with the shoulder pads. It's very 80s.
And her hair and her earrings and her makeup choices just kind of top the icing on the cake. Like she's the most 80s power plant manager that has ever existed.
So we're now at the Winden police station in 2020. Charlotte is looking at that Sigmundus group photo and looking at the picture closely. Clausen enters the office and reminds her that they are supposed to go question suspects today, starting with Regina Tiedemann. Charlotte thinks this is kind of an odd choice since she's in no way connected with any of the missing kids. But Clausen's like, hello, she's married to Alexander and everything has happened at the power plant. So makes sense to me.
He's putting it all together really quick. The caves, the power plant, the door, the missing people. I mean, he put it all together very quickly. And he was harping on the fact, like, why did the husband take the wife's name? Nobody seems really interested in that except for him. So I guess Winden's a pretty progressive town at this time. I think if it happened back in the 80s, it might be different. Well, I guess it did happen back in the 80s, didn't it? So I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah. I almost like, almost expected Charlotte to say, he's like, don't you think it's odd that Alexander took her name? And I almost expected Charlotte to say, this is Germany.
Right.
Helge has dement. This is Germany, sir. We're not some American, we're very progressive here.
Yeah. But no, she's acting pretty sus here, big time, too, as well. Speaking of, Claudia doing the last scene, she's keeping up with it right here.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious of her. I think that Clausen is, too, because he looks at that picture a little too long. He notices that she was hiding it. I think it's safe to say, too, I didn't notice this the first time in the picture. Of course, you can see Noah plain as day because Elizabeth pointed him out to us. But yeah, front and center of that picture is that dude Adam. Mm-hmm. So
yep.
Two recognizable characters right there immediately.
So we're now at the Doppler house, and Elizabeth and Franziska are on the couch watching TV, or at least Franziska is. Elizabeth is still looking at this book that she found at her grandfather's store. And Magnus barges in. Typical Magnus, just comes in, fills up the space.
Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Tells Franziska he knows where she goes now to get her money. Actually, I think he says, I know where you went last year to get your money. So he totally reveals the fact that I've been following you for a year now.
Right.
He basically accuses her of cheating because he's just like, everybody cheats, everybody lies. Franziska gets angry and tells Magnus that it's really none of his business, but that she's just delivering these hormone therapy pills to Benny for money. And Magnus just deflates a little, but instead of apologizing, he just walks out.
Yeah, another not smart move from him. Because last episode is when he barged into Benny's and and here he just should have been like, oh, okay. Wow. Well, let me process this. Okay. Yeah, I feel a lot better about this, Fran. I mean,
it reminds you a little of his dad, right? How Ulrich just walks in and goes from one thing to the next and doesn't use his words very well.
No, you're exactly right. Good looking dude too. Ulrich was a good looking dude when he was younger as well. I guess you could say he's good looking as an older guy too, but Yeah, you're right. Father's son.
But yeah, I think Franziska also mentions that her dad used to get the pills for Benny.
Right.
So another piece of the puzzle drops. Perhaps Benny was going to Peter as, perhaps she met him as a client. No, we know Peter was her client,
right?
But was Benny Peter's client as the town therapist? Maybe she went to see him. Yeah, you're looking cynical about this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I think I have the theory that figured out out. You weren't supposed to comment on my facial expressions. Let's see. So yeah, when Peter was hooking up with Benny, and they were, that was where Peter was getting, his affection or whatever. And probably during, one of their sessions or afterwards, Benny was like, yeah, I'm trying to get hormone pills. Peter's like, oh, I'm a doctor. I can hook you up with that. Yeah, let's do this. And then he hooked him up. But then Peter was like, nope, I can't do this anymore. Me and Charlotte are good. So, we know that he breaks up with them. And it's been a year since they've been together. So Benny had to go somewhere else for the pills. So Fran somehow filled in the gap, probably unbeknownst to her dad for sure.
Yeah. Well, you would think that he could still give the prescription though, but I don't know.
Cut
Maybe
off,
this
100%. I mean, too many feelings involved, Make a clean cut. Break up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
guess,
Peter for you. You know, that's what Peter told me anyway. I mean, I don't know what he told you.
I mean, it's not. I mean, yes. Usually, they're like, okay, we're going to now transfer your case to a different therapist, though. Not like just drop you. So the only option is you have to get your pills from a teenager.
Okay. Yeah, you misunderstand. I don't think that Peter was Benny's therapist. Peter was Benny's client. They were having sex. That was it. And then Peter was like, just happened to be like, oh, I'm a doctor, so I can illegally get you some pills.
Okay. So how is? Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of like, okay, well, how is Franziska getting them?
I don't know. Maybe she like took advantage of a situation that she found out about because she's super observant. Yeah. I'm only speculating.
Yeah, she is pretty smart.
Yeah,
know how to get things. So, all right. Well, anyway, Magnus just leaves. He's like, oh, well, I don't know what to say then. Certainly not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, God forbid.
We're now at the Conwald house. Stranger Jonas comes downstairs and shows Hannah the time machine. She's looking at these old photos of the family, and he says, I think I did this all wrong. Keeping secrets is the problem. So you need to see it to believe. You need to see Dad's secret.
Right. It's cool that somebody's taking an interest in Hannah now. So... you know, she hadn't had a lot going on, and so whatever journey he's taken on here is good. I think that she has somebody now. Still no shower. He's still dirty. Just wanted to point that out. And who is she looks at a picture of the three of them. I think they're all smiling. And then the next picture is a picture of a girl like in a rainbow dress. Who was that?
That's Jonas when he's younger.
In a rainbow dress, or just like a rainbow shirt? And
it's not a dress; it's just an outfit. It's just like a colorful outfit, but it's not. I don't think it's
okay.
I mean, I only watched it just now, but I didn't notice the dress. But that's definitely like little Jonas in a backpack.
Okay, by himself, right? The second picture she was looking at.
Yeah, the one by himself.
Okay, mystery solved.
Yeah. I wonder what he meant by saying he did this all wrong. That you need to see to believe. So I guess, I don't know. I don't know what his plan was before.
I can't speak to that at all either.
So we're now in 1987. Mikkel is at the schoolyard. This is very much, a year ago he had sort of a similar scene where he showed up and there was music playing and weird 80s kids just hanging out doing weird stuff.
It's more intimidating to him now, though. He's like, uh-oh, I gotta mix in here.
You would think it would be, this is, Inez says there's only a week before summer school starts, so you would think that maybe he would feel more confident because it's now been 6 months. It's probably May. He's been now going to school here for at least a whole semester, but he doesn't seem to feel any better about it.
No, he doesn't. And he's bummed because it's his mom's birthday, but then lead us in. I love it. He
runs into his mom. She's Katerina, the bully Katerina runs into him and just makes a rude comment as if it's Mikkel's fault that she ran into him.
So bizarre. What a great touch.
So Hannah is with her. She walks past Mikkel, and Hannah seems to almost recognize him. Or she does recognize him, but she doesn't say anything. She just kind of stare at each other.
Right.
And Katerina is like, come on, Hannah, come. What are you doing? So then... yeah, Mikkel ends up just leaving and not going to school, and it's so sad because yes, we know that today is Katerina's birthday. Mikkel would just like to be with his mom, and then here she is, being mean to him.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking. This song is great for how it ties into this episode. It's by the Human League. It's called "Being Boiled." And I wrote down some of the lyrics, if I may. Just because the kid's an orphan is no excuse for thoughtless slaying or bullying, perhaps. People don't forget this kind of torture. Just because you call her mother doesn't mean that she is your better.
Deep cut there.
Yeah. And it like plays right into the scene, and every word plays right into there. I like that.
Steve, I knew you'd come through for me with this song because I was like, yeah.
Well, this is Human League. This is like the same band that did that song, You Were Working as a Waitress in a Cocktail Bar. You know what song I'm talking about? Don't You Want Me? Yeah, same band.
Okay. So, across town at the wind and power plant, Claudia arrives to find that she has a guest in the lobby, claiming that Gretchen is hers. It's older Claudia, the Claudia from the future, who greets middle-aged Claudia in her own office. And the old Claudia tells her that she remembers being in her shoes and that she needs to be convinced about the important role that she needs to play.
This is the fourth time we're going to see like a character talk to like a younger version, or the fourth time we have seen this happen now with Claudia. It's great. And let me get the Gretchen stuff out of the way. Gretchen is so adorable walking across that big power plant floor, paws like all pitter-pattering, like healing like right beside Claudia. And then like when they get in the room, how cute he nuzzles up with the older version of Claudia. I mean, they got such a great dog to like play this. I mean, so good. Like he does everything right. I mean, we talk about the great actors, and there's a great animal handler out there somewhere that helped us with Gretchen. I'm happy for it. But I kind of didn't. I'm just gonna, go on a limb and say like this proof that she offered, like look out the window and watch what the people are doing. Proof. I thought that was kind of silly. I don't know. Like, and then the guy like drops the pen. He's like a real pervert. Like looks at the secretary's butt. I mean, I don't know, but they got to do what they got to do to prove it to the younger Claudia. So I can appreciate it, but I thought it was silly.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas did the same thing to Hannah. He's like, remember when that time that you and Papa did this? And I mean, his memories were perhaps a little bit more touching than old Claudia going, that guy's going to try to look up her skirt. Right. Yeah, you'd think she could come up with something different, like just a fact about her life,
Yep. Yep, that's what I was thinking too.
Remember when, that beautiful lady came to our house and, meaning Agnes and stuff, yeah.
Well, she kind of does do that. Because she reveals here, like I speculated that the reason that Gretchen time traveled was because she ran between Helge's legs, but that's not true. Like she says here that, that when the dog ran into the cave, like the dog ran to her, and then she took the dog through. So,
yeah,
that's what happened there.
And it takes her a while, but she does finally say "Ik ben du." When I was like, it took her a while to get there, but when she first says, "How would you know that?" she says, "Well, because she's my dog, just like she's your dog." And I really wanted her to say right then, "Ik ben du," but she, it takes her a while to get there. She finally says it, but that should be the line that every character says to themselves.
It's required. Yeah. I agree. I expect it. Hey, I guess, did you have more for this scene? Because I was ready to get a break. If not.
Yeah, I have nothing else for this scene.
All right. I'm going to take a break. Actually, what I'm doing is a little different for this break. Usually I break to like another podcast, but I'm helping to promote a band this time around, Pyre Fire. So I'm going to play one of their songs right now. They're like a New Jersey, like heavy synth fuzz band. I've been a fan of them for a few years. And they've just released an album, so I'm going to play the first track of it right now. It's got a lot of energy, so everybody be cautious. So here we go with Pyre Fire. We'll be right back. See the red circle? Mm-hmm. All righty. Then I guess we're back with Sweet Child of Time. Before we continue with our recap, though, I want to give you, Lindsay, what we have come to call the Barnes Burner Quiz, because it sounds funny.
Okay.
This quiz, I have found 8 albums, 4 of which were released in June of 1987, 4 of which were released in June of 2022. These are all German heavy metal bands that released these albums. So is this going to be an album that young Ulrich would have listened to? Or, well, I guess young Ulrich. Yeah, he's still kicking around there. Young Ulrich's still kicking around in June of 1987. You follow the logic of the quiz, Lindsay.
Okay, so you're just giving me the name of an album.
And the band.
And the name of the band. And I tell you if it's 1980s or 2020. 2020.
Last time I did this, it was, I just had to do the year 1986 and the year 2019 because I couldn't find enough German metal bands that released albums in 1986. So I guess by the time June of 87 rolls around, we have a resurgence of metal. So there's a lot of German bands releasing stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go alphabetical so you won't know who's who.
Well, since I am such an expert on German heavy metal, I'm expecting to ace this completely.
That's right. I've only heard of two of the bands, or 3 of the bands out of this 8, too. So we're in the same boat here. So the first band would be Alcatraz. The album's called Born Innocent. 87 or 2020?
87.
That is a 2020 album those fellas put out. All right, next up is Anvil, Legal at Last. Which could literally be either, because they were a band that has been around since the 80s. So, but Anvil's album, Legal at Last.
Okay, I'm going to say 87 again.
It seems like it with a terrible title like that, but no, it's 2020. They released that terrible album title.
Okay.
Next up, we got Armored Saint, Punching the Sky.
Okay, this one has to be 1987.
Oh, Lindsay, these are the 2020 boys again. I'm just going alphabetically.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Let's see what comes. Okay, next up would be the band Gravestone, Creating a Monster.
I'm going to say 2020.
They would be like in 1987.
Okay.
So that's Gravestone for you. You've already guessed 3 bands. We already know 3 bands are 2020 bands. So most of these are going to be 87 now.
That's true.
Just the way the ball bounces.
I should just say 87 for everything from now on.
Nope, one of them is going to be...
I understand.
Next up, High Tension, Wind Me Up.
I'll say 87.
That's 87, absolutely. Okay, this next one is actually an album that I own, and I love it. It's a band, their name is Paysage d'Hiver. Album is called Im Wald.
I'll say 87.
That's a 2020 album. I bought that album when it was released.
Okay.
So next up then, you got to get these Tox, The Son of Spain.
87.
That's 87. And their last German metal band, Tyrant, She's a Killer.
It'll be 87 as well.
That's going to be 87 as well. You got 3 points this time around, Lindsay. And as a bonus, I'll forward you Passage des Vers later, and you can jam out to it.
Okay.
Well, let's get back to our dark recap, Lindsay. We left off with Claudia talking to Claudia.
Mm-hmm. So then next thing is we get Egon receiving a call at his home.
Yes.
The person informs him that his cancer has spread. And Egon takes this all in, and he seems to experience this moment of regret, as sometimes people do when they're finding out you don't have long to live. He's like, what do I need to finish in my life? And he thinks about this case that he never solved about Mads Nielsen, and he's looking at the police diary that reads, "Why not Forest Road?" And it was this question he planned to ask Helge that never got answered. So Egon is ready to tend to some unfinished business.
That's right. Yeah, that's nice the way you piece that together. We learned in this scene too why he was wanting to talk to Claudia, because when he was like saying he had something to tell Claudia, I was like, am I supposed to know what he's telling her? I was like racking my brain. So obviously, no, this is what he was going to tell her.
Yeah.
They Mandela affected us too here, because it didn't say, because yes, season 1, they were talking about Forest Road. Why not Forest Road?
Right.
But in this one, it said on the thing, why not through the forest? Mm-hmm. So I was like, what are they trying to do to us here?
The interpretation, like the translation or whatever sometimes can be off. Yeah. But this is like, Detective Egon is on the case. We saw that no matter when he was younger, when he was the 1980s Egon, he was always sounded, he's interrogating everybody. Like, Jonas,
yes.
Ulrich, Agnes. So he's like, I'm ready to solve this case, which it's like, what else can you do? He's like,
sure,
my life is over, so I might as well keep doing this.
Claudia's not talking to me, so that's what I'm going to do.
So then we get in 2053, Jonas enters a building and uses this electrical current to get a CD player working. The CD player is loaded up with Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds.
You quoted that last episode, you stinker.
For a completely different reason, right?
It was.
Yeah, which I know I cannot remember what that, but did dawn on me that as well.
Oh, it was Magnus being suspicious of Fran, is what you were saying.
Yes. So apparently Jonas has become quite the electrician. I mean, he knows how to...
He is smart as hell.
Nobody went to class, so where did he get all these skills from?
I guess for the last 6 months here in the future, he's been studying up. I don't know. He learned how to hook up a generator, so hooking up a battery is nothing compared to hooking up a generator.
I guess.
But even so, I was impressed as well. I noticed the same thing.
So the music alerts these militants to arrive in a truck, or not a truck, a tank more, or just a truck, I guess. It's looking at some kind of military vehicle.
Sure.
They're checking out where is this noise coming from. I guess they're not music lovers because they weren't dancing or anything. No. They were just...
Which is what we would have done, right? That's what we would have done immediately.
Yeah. Jonas siphons gas from the truck. He knows how to do that too. I guess most young hoodlums know how to do these kinds of things.
That's right. I figured it out too when I was younger.
I did think it was kind of interesting that he's wanting to get some gas, obviously, to power the generator back at this for the God particle. Right. And it didn't seem like he got that much gas. It was like you held that hose there for 5 seconds, but I guess you would think he'd want a full like container of gas.
I think he did fill up that container. I'm sure he did.
Oh, okay.
And that's what that's a 2.5 gallon container, and it's not a lot. It's like a drop in the bucket for a generator, but it's enough, I guess, for him to step through, and that's all he needs.
Yeah.
This scene reminded me of The Walking Dead a lot. The tone of it and everything about it reminded me of The Walking Dead. I thought it was good TV. I thought this was a great scene, like just regardless of what you're watching. It's cool action, cool suspense.
Yeah, I was like, again, we don't get that many action scenes, but this is kind of suspenseful. It's like, will they catch Jonas or not? And of course, he manages to get out of the way just in time before the guy comes around the truck. So, yeah, it is very good TV.
Yeah, it's undark, but they do it really well. I like it.
So then in 1987, Alexander and Regina are cuddling in the woods on a log. Regina is wearing these yellow pumps. So cute. She's asking Alexander if he believes in ghosts and that the adults in her life seem to be haunted by ghosts and demons. And her mother never says, I love you. Alexander tells Regina that he loves her. And this, I don't know, this scene just made me really happy. I was like, oh, these two are in love. And he was touching her wrist where she has cut herself. Mm-hmm. So he knows all of her ghosts and demons, and he still is going to be with her. And also, he was dressed in this blazer. I don't know. You know, he arrives in town with this hoodlum-looking leather jacket, but he's making an effort to look a little nicer now.
He's got a job now, too, so he can afford some good clothes. Mm-hmm. They're talking. I thought it was interesting. She's talking about a book they're reading at school, and she's saying how it's dark stuff that gets passed down from generation to generation. And I was like, oh, I think you're describing the show that you're on. Mm-hmm. I think the book that they're reading is The House of Spirits, I believe. It sounds like that's what the book they're reading to me, which that's exactly what that book is about like, you know, trauma being handed down generation to generation by literal ghosts.
Do we see the book?
No.
Because I thought I remembered a book too, but when I was watching this scene just now, I didn't see mention of a book.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was just going by her description, what she was saying,
okay.
And that's what the book seemed like to me, in like the way she was saying the generational part. You know, okay, she's got that rainbow backpack, yellow shoes. We're signified that she's like really bright and happy. Mm-hmm. I just can't help but like wonder, is he using her to some end? Like, she's the daughter of his boss. He came out of town. We don't know where he came from. He could be a time traveler. He could know crap about her. And like, he saw her and was like, oh, that's Regina. That's like the lady's daughter. You know, I better like, you know, save her from these bullies. Not to say that like, you know, the stuff he's saying isn't sincere. I just wonder, like, you know, where he came from and if he is indeed, like, using her or... Yeah, I think I made my point.
Oh, Steve, you're so cynical.
Well, I just don't know. I don't remember. So...
Yeah. I guess if he was... I mean, hey, we know these two got married, so...
Right, yeah, we do.
Not that all the marriages in Winden are happy, but I still think that... Yeah, I mean, I think these two have sincere love for each other. I don't know.
It seems like it too.
I don't get that sense at all.
Okay, good. Because I'm just making sure. Like, he could be a time traveler, and like, I'm gonna manipulate this person because I know how to push their buttons. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't get that vibe either. But TV shows do weird things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely is running from something. He has something suspicious.
Oh yeah.
In his past, but when it comes to her, I think he genuinely cares for her. So.
I wonder where he lives too. Like, they meet in the woods and hang out. I hope we see I guess he has an apartment or rents a room or something like that. I don't know. That's
that's a good point. I mean, we know like that one night when he was hurt, he like was probably at the Tiedemann's house getting some TLC from Regina, but now, where does he live? Maybe he just lives down with the yellow barrels and the metal door.
I hope not. That's dangerous.
Just take a cot down there. So, in 2020, older Regina is being questioned by Charlotte and Clausen, but mainly Clausen. Charlotte's just there for the transportation. Yes. He asks Regina what her relationship is to the Nielsen's. She denies that they have any kind of relationship, but Clausen has been doing his research. Somehow he knows that Ulrich came to her hotel to confront her.
Right.
I'm like, why would you know that? The only two people there were Ulrich and Regina.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe he wrote in his logbook that he was going to do that, like in his police book. I don't know. I thought the same thing too.
Yeah. I don't know. Did we ever see Ulrich taking notes?
Never. He just ran around quickly.
Anyway, he seems to know all the facts about like Regina and everybody. So he asked her about this, why Alexander took your last name. She is very protective of Alexander, of course, and says, what does that have to do with anything? She does tell him about Ulrich, that he came to talk to her about the night her brother went missing and that she was the last person to see Mads. And then after he kind of pushes her, she mentions that a stranger came to stay at her hotel a year ago and left all of these creepy pictures on the wall, and about the package that he asked her to mail to Jonas. And Charlotte goes through the box and is picking up all the items and kind of does the Charlotte dash. She tells Clausen she needs to go and that he can take a cab home. So that's what happens at the Tiedemann house and during Regina's questioning.
Yeah, were some of those pictures the same pictures that, Charlotte recognized the pictures, but were some of those the same pictures that she had on her wall too? I guess.
Good point. I don't know. I just remembered these. I remember them mostly being like pictures I saw on Stranger Jonas's wall at the hotel.
Okay.
But it is possible that they're some of the same things she has, although she was mainly, as far as I saw, she was mainly keeping things like newspaper articles and the picture of Ulrich. And
I was just wondering, how we have these 2 time machines and 2 people. I just didn't know if Myth is the same set of papers, that are getting passed around. Like the book gets passed around. Just speculation. I'm still just speculating some stuff. Clausen was pushy and unlikable. We didn't like his line of questioning, and I didn't like how, when Charlotte left, I didn't like the way Charlotte left. That was pretty lame. She could have done a better job with that, but she's panicking right now. We'll let her panic. But as soon as she left, he shrugged his shoulders and then got up and then sidled up even closer to her. Yeah. I'm you're really creepy. Your body language and stuff. I liked you last episode, and he's being really weird this episode. I'm feeling like the Wyndon people. Leave us alone. Just
yeah. He was kind of, Charlotte was kind of funny too in this episode. He was she's well, there's nothing more to be said. And he's sit down, and she gives him the look like she gave Katerina almost. I have to mention something I noticed in this episode, because the way that she was getting up and the way the camera frame was, you could see what she was wearing really well. She's wearing those green chino pants. We've never seen her look feminine whatsoever. I was noticing that every other female character on this show has worn a dress at some point or looked feminine in some way, and they make a point to have Charlotte in pants and button-up blazers the whole time. They're kind of androgenizing her for some reason. So I don't know. That's the first time I really noticed that and started thinking about it was this episode. Oh, okay. Meanwhile, we see that Stranger Jonas has brought Hannah to the cave. He turns on the time machine and he takes her through and says, don't be afraid, or it's okay if you're afraid or something. And Hannah doesn't really she seems a little cautious, but she's she knew what was going to happen. So here it is. He says it's safer to travel from the cave because we were asking why do they travel from the cave? And that's the explanation that he gives. Not a great one. I don't know if it means safer from prying eyes or safer because of the location adjacent to the power plant, but that's a kind of reason. Heather was wondering. Heather was saying that she should have been kind of curious about that phone. Heather thought it was odd that,
Jonas has this phone and it's got a picture of Ulrich and Ulrich's family on it. And she was like, Hannah probably should have noticed that and been like, what are you doing with that picture of the Nielsen family on your phone? What's up? Which, is kind of a good point, but, it's just glossed over here. I think that's the last place her mind is his screensaver.
Yeah, I guess he has the phone from Tannhaus.
Yeah, Ulrich's old phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if you looked through Ulrich's old texts and saw some pictures of Hannah naked.
Oh, okay. So this procedure of of them using the time machine starts this noise. And in 1987, Mikkel is walking in the woods and he senses the vibrations hears the noise and starts running towards the cave. And he must just recognize this as hey, this is how it sounds or whatever. So he walks to the mouth of the cave and finds nothing at first. Then Mikkel looks up and sees Noah. Noah asks him why he isn't in school, and of course he's creepily eating an apple. Mikkel gives a vague answer and remembers Noah from the hospital, and they talk about the fact that this idea about God having a plan. God wants to know what if God messes up? Mm-hmm. And Noah is like, hey, you need some more faith, kid. You need to just believe in me. He's doing his typical trust in me, trust in me. Yeah, this was just typical Noah. He's like, you are here, and what did he say? Sometimes, why are you here? Sometimes we don't know where we're supposed to be, and yeah.
Well, that
elusive,
describes
priestly
Mikkel.
Answers, yeah.
Describes Mikkel to a T. And if Mikkel hung around this cave entrance long enough, he would see Hannah and stranger Jonas walk out, right?
Yeah, I wondered about that. I didn't get to finish watching, but yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Well, they arrive at nighttime, and it's still daytime here when he's talking to Noah.
Yeah, which is why would that be?
You got me.
If Mikkel hears the noise when they're coming through,
right.
You would think maybe you would suspect would they come out of the cave? If they're in the cave and it's 33 years.
Maybe that's why Noah was there, to play deflection, because he does warn Mikkel to stay away from the caves too.
That's true. He's like, you shouldn't go in there. It's probably not safe.
Yeah, maybe he's there to deflect them and get away, because maybe in that book it's written down that Jonas and Hannah are getting ready to time travel, because I think that's what that book is about, is time travel dates.
Yeah.
I think it's neat that Mikkel has been thinking about their conversation at the hospital. That priest should be impressed. If a kid remembers a conversation y'all had, that's a success. That's a win.
Yeah. Yeah, but then Noah also says, in addition, before he says, you probably shouldn't go in there, he says, I like it here. It's a special place.
That's true. Yeah, make up your mind, Noah. What is it?
You're giving mixed signals here.
As usual.
Okay, so then in 87, Egon goes to visit Helge at the assisted living facility. Egon pretends it's a friendly visit, but he's also trying to interrogate Helge about why he didn't take the forest road back before. Helge freaks out and says he said he can change everything, the future and the past. And of course we know that that's Ulrich that said that to him. Not even the White Devil could stop it. Well,
that
gets Egon's attention right away, because we know he loves to talk about Satanism and
I didn't
devils
even think about that.
and all that stuff.
Right. Okay.
Helge mentions the man with the rock or the stone, which confuses Egon because that happened back in 1953. Also, back then, Helge mentioned the White Devil to Egon in the past as a child. So Egon's like, Helge is mentioning all this stuff from 33 years ago, so maybe he's just confused.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus that he came to. I mean, we know that the White Devil he's talking about is Noah, right? Because at first I was thinking the White Devil would be Ulrich, but he describes Ulrich as the man with the stone, and then the next sentence he says the White Devil. So that makes me think. We
do not know who the White Devil is.
I'm guessing Noah, because it seems.
Okay.
Helge doesn't have any other friends besides Ulrich, and Ulrich's his friend, right? Ulrich and I haven't seen Helge hang out with anybody besides Noah, right?
Well, before this, before the car accident, Helge was hanging out with Noah.
Yeah, that's right. And we haven't seen him hang out with anybody else besides Noah, right?
He likes to give Claudia books.
That's right. But yeah, they have like that tutor relationship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. But yeah, obviously the accident is what caused him to, like, you know, you see like his face is partially like paralyzed, and he starts the TikTok thing up. Starts talking about his TikTok.
TikTok this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I missed that.
That's when Egon decides to walk away, is because he starts saying TikTok and doing his own thing.
Okay. And he's making his little figurines with the nature. He went on a nature walk.
They let him out again.
If Egon wants to hang out with Helge more, he should bring him, you know, maybe he did, bring him bags of supplies of like pine cones and stuff, you know?
That's right. But I think he figures that he's just a dead end. Like, Helge is just saying a bunch of weird stuff that I don't understand, so he goes a different path.
Or does he? Because of what happens later. But we'll get there when we get there. So the Claudias are also in the cave. And older Claudia continues to explain that Adam must be stopped. Younger Claudia is just like, who's Adam? You know, what are you talking about?
Right.
Older Claudia shows younger Claudia the time machine, just like Jonas is showing Hannah the time machine. And younger Claudia is really confused, but she takes these pages from that older Claudia gives her. Now, Claudia also talks about the fact that in 5 days the apocalypse will happen, but if they do everything correctly, Regina will live.
I guess that's her goal.
Yeah, she's dropping an awful lot of information on young Claudia.
Well, she gives her that grid map, so that's helpful. And she doesn't need a phone to like do her time machine. Like you know, Jonas has that phone, but she doesn't have that. She just has like a little vial thing. Yeah,
she has the cesium or the stuff that was pilfered from the barrels.
Right. Yeah, I know Jonas had that too, but he needed the phone to operate it. But Claudia did not. So I don't know. It's just something that I noticed, a difference in those time machines.
Yeah. It was just, this conversation was a lot to try to take in. I felt, you know, I was like, even as a first time viewer, you would be confused. I'm still confused about it. Because I'm like, the pages, you know, at first I thought this was a map of some kind.
Oh, but then they showed it at the end of this episode.
Okay.
Yeah, it's concluded. It seems like it's concluded anyway, that like she's handing her younger self the keys to the future. Mm-hmm. And I did have another point I wanted to make about this. Yeah, we learn in this episode, I think they help us piece it together better, that the cave can take you 33 years in the past, 33 years in the future. There's like 3 ways you can go. But then if you can double that with the time machine. So that is how they're getting back 33 years back even further. So I guess the little time machine thing is like another like exact 33-year thing. I suppose they're not explaining how they're like doing the how they're determining what time they're coming out. So I'm assuming it's always 33 years in the future or the past. So like you were saying, the God particle is kind of a big question mark because we don't know if that's going to be 33 years or how that's going to work. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I just thought it was interesting how like it, you know, that's how we ended up in 1921 and from the doubling of the years.
Back in 2053, Jonas enters the forbidden dead zone with his can of pilfered gas and is immediately caught by Elizabeth and her guards.
Yep. Poor guy. There's not much we can say here because they don't even say anything in the scene. Like, nobody says a word.
No.
That hole, that Heather was very suspicious of that, like, giant entry hole that is really easy to get in and out of the dead zone. She was thinking they should probably reinforce that a little bit. Yeah.
Leave it to Heather to come up with the practical solution. So then in 2020, Charlotte calls Peter upset after seeing the pictures from the stranger's box. The drawings the stranger had on his wall were the same drawings in her grandfather's Journey Through Time book. And she wonders what connection her grandfather had to the missing boys and why he never told her who her parents were.
Right. It's weird that she's thinking about this now. And I'm thinking it's something that she's never given herself a chance to think about by always being busy and always being like an intense police officer and always, you know, always moving, just like Ulrich. Don't stop. Don't stop and think about your parents. Don't stop and think about your granddad. Just keep going.
Yeah, this is a more vulnerable Charlotte than we've seen before. Back in 2053, Jonas has been strung up for hanging, and Elizabeth makes a point of saying that, you know, he knew the rules and he broke them. And Jonas begins to argue, screaming that there's no paradise, no prophecy, and Elizabeth gets mad and shoots him in the leg. Then she allows him, she actually kicks the thing that's holding his legs so that, a little bit more, no winching happening here. She just kicks it and is like, loses it. It was, this scene, there's a lot happening here. She allows him to hang for a few seconds, but then she does shoot him down. She does not allow him to die. And it was interesting to me that the girl from the future seems very moved by Jonas's plight. We remember the hangings from the last episode. Nobody really seemed to feel sorry for those dudes at all. They were not moved by their appeals, but for some reason, Elizabeth lets him live, but the girl from the future is almost like unable to complete her task as well. Her voice breaks and she's upset. And so it was like very interesting to see this dynamic. You're wondering what is the emotional pull Jonas has over this group.
Yeah, I was waiting to find the answer. I'm still waiting to find the answer to that as well, because I'm wondering the same thing. I'm thinking that Elizabeth didn't really shoot him down, like shoot the rope to stop him from dying. I'm thinking that was something that that it was an impulse. That was one of those deals like time. It wasn't Jonas's time here to die. And that's the only possible thing that could have prevented his death is Elizabeth. There's nothing else that could have prevented his death. Because like when she kicked the board out from under him, his neck should have broken. But it didn't. He just hung there like the other guys did, suffering. Mm-hmm. So she's the only thing that could have stopped it. And she did. So not my theory, but that's just kind of what I was thinking, was kind of like a choice that she didn't really make. Like she did it, But I think if you asked her why she did that, she probably wouldn't be able to answer. Maybe somebody will ask her next episode. I hope they do.
Yeah. I mean, I was also, though, still, I mainly, of course you're like, why would she stop this from happening? But also, the girl from the future was just acting like this was really hard for her to watch what she was doing to Jonas. Unless it's always been hard for her, but she's hidden it well or something. Or they just, perhaps in the last episode, it's always been hard for her, but they're finally showing us that so we can see this girl isn't a monster, just like I
don't know. When we first meet her, she butts Jonas to the head for no reason whatsoever.
Yes. Yeah. So then in 1987, Egon is on the phone asking about the man they arrested in 1953, meaning Ulrich. So even though he could have thought Helge was just batty, this is enough. It was enough for Egon to check on this situation. He's like, Helge mentioned the guy with the stone. Is that guy still around? So Egon's still doing his due diligence here. Mm-hmm. He discovers that Ulrich is still alive and being held at a psychiatric hospital nearby. He goes to visit Ulrich. The attending nurse tells Egon that they call him the inspector, which is great. Go ahead.
I think it's doubly great because, he's a police officer. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a nod to Falco because the inspector in German is Der Kommissar. And that's like Falco's biggest hit that he had was Der Kommissar. So I think it was the showrunners being fans again.
Okay, this I wanted to go ahead and drop a nugget that the attending nurse is Helene Albers. Helene Albers, the wife of the farmer from the beginning with the sheep that were killed.
Katarina's
and the
parents.
Mother of Katarina, yes.
Whoa. This is Katarina's mom?
Katarina's mom.
Wow, okay.
Which may explain why she...
It's Katarina's mom, and there's Katarina's husband, the inspector, in there. Wow.
Yeah. Katarina's mom, the viewer, podcast listeners can't see this, but I'm crossing my arms here in front because that's what Helene Albers does. And we know that in a year ago or whatever, less than a year ago, Katarina was taken in to be questioned about this rape, right? So the mom has maybe heard about Egon. So that's what I'm saying. He says, "I'm Chief Inspector Egon Tiedemann," and she doesn't say, "Well, sir, hello."
You're right.
She's
wow.
suspicious of him.
Yeah, I noticed that too, but I thought it was because he didn't have an appointment. I thought that's why.
Yeah, because he said, "Didn't they tell you that?"
Yeah, he lied.
I'm coming. Yeah.
He lied.
Yeah, I don't think he's chief inspector anymore. He's retired, right?
Right. So he just lied to her to try to get in and talk to Ulrich.
Yeah.
I thought that's why she was crossing her arms. Like, I know you're lying, but that makes a lot more sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I think it could be both things.
She beats Katarina, right? Somebody beats Katarina.
Somebody beats Katarina at home. So it's but yeah, it's just...
I love that.
So much happening. Okay, so Helene Albers here works at the psychiatric hospital. She goes on and on about how nice Ulrich is, or the inspector. She can't believe anybody is here to talk to him at all. Egon wants to know if Ulrich ever gets day passes.
Right. Well, yeah, that would mean that he's doing murders.
Yeah. She says absolutely not. He's here under whatever
level
surveillance.
2. He's on level 2.
Yeah. Egon then meets older Ulrich, who wow, they really worked hard to find this guy who looks so much like
Wait, that's
younger
not the same.
Ulrich.
That's not the same guy.
It is not the same guy.
I thought it was the same guy, like in makeup. Are you sure? Can I?
Yes.
You've already checked that.
Yes.
Oh my God! I swear, I thought it was this. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I'm doubly blown away by this scene now. I didn't know either of those things. I just assumed they did a good makeup job on him. They rocked it, and
I mean,
he's creepy.
We haven't seen the old Ulrich since he got left, rotted in prison. He got beat up by Mr. Conwald, Inez's dad, Daniel Conwald, and Egon just sat there and watched it happen. He's been rotting in prison for 33 years, and here's this older Ulrich played by a completely new actor that looks so much like middle-aged Ulrich.
It fooled me.
Okay, so he has this long gray hair, and he asks Ulrich if he remembers him. Ulrich laughs and says, "How could I forget you? Of course, friend. I'm never going to forget you." He is clear. He does not act like a madman here at all. He is clear-eyed, stares right into Egon.
I would say the only madman thing he does is like lean in and smell him. That was very Hannibal Lecter. Other than that, he was very coherent.
Yeah. Him quotes the lyrics from Creator's Pleasure to Kill,
right.
Of course. And Egon says, "Hey, I've heard that before." Yeah.
Little mind blower.
Of course you have. Egon said it to Ulrich when he was a teenager in 1986. Ulrich said it to Egon in 1953 as a joke, and here again. When Egon hears the lyrics, he thinks it means Ulrich is a mass murderer. And, Ulrich won't tell Egon anything and tells him he knows I know when you die.
Yeah.
This is another crazy thing to contemplate because across town, teenage Ulrich is just hanging out in the Nielsen house.
That's right. And then, in the other time, he's been sitting here forever, and he's transcended time. Because I was thinking to myself, how does he know when Egon dies? Is he what? And I was like, oh, it's because adult Ulrich, obviously remembered that and read it in the papers, and makes perfect sense. But this whole scene is a mind blower. I'm still blown away that it's a different guy. It looks like the same guy. So I can't get past that. I think we have to end the podcast now because I can't figure. I can't go on.
Now Inez greets Mikkel at the door. She's been worried about him and knows he didn't go to school. Inez decides to cheer him up by making toast Hawaii as a snack. Before that happens, Mikkel wants to know if Inez believes in God. She says yes, and that God brought them together. And this toast Hawaii, Steve, I need to make this, but it's a real recipe that was popular in the 1950s from this German cooking show by this celebrity chef named Clemens Wilmenrod. It's basically toast with ham, cheese, pineapple, and a cherry on top.
Yeah, sounds great. Honestly, it's like pineapple pizza, except it's a pineapple sandwich. Of course, he gives her a big hug at the end. But even before that, when he comes in the door and before she goes to hug him, you can see that he gets a smile on his face too. Like he's glad that he was missed. A big thing I noticed was that she was sitting at the table, when she hears the door, smoking cigarettes, just like Hannah sits there and smokes cigarettes as well. I looked up what kind of cigarettes is the most popular brand in Germany. It's Marlboro. So Germans like to smoke their Marlboro cigarettes. Do you know where Marlboros are manufactured? Right here in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
So a little piece of Richmond, Virginia is down there in Germany getting smoked by Hannah and Inez. I think that's cute.
All right. Well, everything's connected.
That's right. Oh, she
So
mentions
in-
Elvis again. She says that Elvis likes this meal, and then we heard Elvis's suspicious minds earlier in the episode too.
Oh my.
Double
Oh my.
Elvis.
This is almost too much.
Yep.
Have you made this toast Hawaii before, Steve?
Oh, heck no. Well, I don't eat meat, so I wouldn't put the ham in there. I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
How about you?
I mean, I've heard about it on Dark, but
Okay.
but it's like I do every time this comes on. I'm like, man, I need to make this. Need to make this recipe. But yeah, you could meatless it up. I mean, cheese, pineapple, cherry. It's like,
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me, I guess, knowing that this was popular in the 1950s. And it reminds me of how they were like, oh, now we have all this authentic foreign food, and like especially in California, you'd have Chinese restaurants, Mexican restaurants,
Right.
So it was like, oh, national. Okay, so now we're in 2053, and Jonas is in this prison in pain from this gunshot wound. Elizabeth's assistant enters and points her rifle at Jonas, demanding answers. She wants to know why Elizabeth didn't kill him. Hey, she wants to know the same thing I want to know. Who are you? Finally, she relents, but wants Jonas to show her the God particle.
Yes. She's got to see it for herself. And this is where Stranger Jonas got that cool flashlight from, because they're all using those cool round flashlights is what Elizabeth and her crew are using. So this is where Jonas picked up his.
See, I thought Jonas had one, and he was the globe light, and that he was kind of like it looked like the girl from the future to me was amazed by his globe light.
She had one in her hand too. They both had one.
Okay. All right. So during this interlude, we had our musical interlude of Thunder by RYX. So Jonas leads the girl from the future to the God particle. I guess she hasn't seen it yet. She just trusted
weird.
Elizabeth. Yeah. Ulrich and Egon both contemplate things at their respective rooms. Peter
Right.
finds Charlotte at home and hugs her. And the big one, Stranger Jonas shows Hannah young Mikkel. And she finally sees this heartbreaking truth and can't deny it. She sees Mikkel, the boy she greeted at the hospital, is actually her husband, Michael Conwald.
Yeah, see, I didn't look at this as deeply as you did. See, I was looking at this like Jonas is showing me the truth. This has been the truth all along. It's real. This is my son Jonas. And, that's the house. There's Michael. There's Inez. But your next sentence, I underlined it because I didn't even think about this part, is you said that she feels devastated by this revelation and she must now have a better understanding of his loneliness and inability to connect with her emotionally. Well done, Lindsay, because I did not notice that, and it makes a lot of sense. So I thought that was great. I'm surprised you didn't finish with that.
Well, I think I was going to give you a chance to respond, and then I was going to drop the bomb on everybody, make everybody cry.
Yep.
Hannah is crying. I mean, she's like really sad and kind of. It's not done logically. This is an emotional gut punch for her. We did see her earlier in this episode. She's at the school and, kind of going, who's that boy? I remember him from the hospital, so we did see her kind of seeing young Mikkel. But she didn't, she knew that her husband was not doing well and that he was sad and kind of standoffish a lot. But I just feel like for her now, she feels kind of bad maybe that she didn't understand him. Although, again, he didn't try to communicate with her, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it must be like, a huge revelation. and it's a huge punch for her right now. And this scene is great. And and like when I went back and read your recap and I read that last sentence there that I read before, I mean, it makes it even more great. A lot of love, a lot of love. I'm gonna let you continue. Yeah. All I can do is reiterate what we already have. It's beautiful.
So outside the Tiedemann house, Claudia follows the map she was given by older Claudia and begins to dig at this marked spot that has been given to her. And while we're watching Claudia dig and find the time machine, which she showed her, we see older Claudia burying the time machine in the 1950s before the power plant was created. I think there's that sign, about the future and all that. So there's this parallelism of seeing the future and then seeing what led to the future in tandem. And so I guess this is a way that Claudia is able to verify that what she was saying to herself is true. Right.
And she gave her that grid map was pretty good, and it had a bunch of instructions too. So I'm sure, she thought through this really well to set up this whole arrangement. I love the fact that 1987 Claudia just brings out like one of her house lamps, and like she's using that for lighting. Like she doesn't have a flashlight or anything. She has like a lamp from her living room out there, and the dog again is just sitting there so patiently watching her, being the best little doggy.
If you guys, I mean, yes, I want you to go to my recaps, but definitely go to this recap because I have a picture of this scene. It almost looks like a piece of art, Steve. I feel like this could be in a museum, this picture of Claudia with Gretchen the dog under the lamp. Did the extension cord really go this far? And digging a hole, that is no joke. I mean, Claudia must be beef. She must be a beef, super strong here.
I mean, she can rappel up and down ropes. We knew that already, and that takes a lot of upper body strength. So yeah, she's got it.
Girl boss.
Yeah. But she does it. I mean, she clicks upon that time machine, and it makes me wonder, is this a third time machine, or are we still going off the same two? Because remember there was...
I mean, this is where I'm like, I cannot follow all these machines.
Well, we never saw it go into Claudia's hands. There's obviously some scenes we missed. Like, as far as we knew, there was one in Tannhause's store, and there was the one that Jonas was carrying around. And then now we see one that Noah's carrying around. And now we see this other one that Claudia's carrying around. So they're just multiplying out there.
So in the final scene, Jonas gets the generator working and the girl from the future watches. The God particle stabilizes and he walks through.
Yeah, it's like his shot leg is... We see him limp a little bit, but the magic of TV made his leg feel a lot better. But yeah, I love the way he like sticks his arm through first, and it like does all that weird stuff, and yeah, he pops on through there, and he has a lot of faith that he's going to come out in one piece. And as soon as he steps through, it goes immediately back to the unstable state again. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't know if that was because he went through or it's because like he ran out of gas again because he didn't have that much gas.
I told you it wasn't very much gas, Steve.
You're right.
It had just enough juice for one object to go through.
I did like earlier in the scene, like I'm going to go back to the very beginning. I enjoyed how they told us how this thing worked. And it was basically like, we don't know how it works. We just know that in its unstable condition, it just keeps doing this thing and it will continue doing that. And if you stabilize it, then it'll do something else. But I like when I first watched this episode the first time through, it went over my head. And I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about. So watching it like, the third time through, for me, it takes that long for things to click, Lindsay. And that's when I realized they did a pretty good job of explaining all that. And they end this one the same way they end the first one. Like both episodes end with the God particle floating, being unstable. And that's the end of our episode, Lindsay. We're going to summarize our favorites and our least favorites now. Would you like me to go first this time? Because I made you go first last time.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you go first? I'm still trying to decide who my least favorite character is.
Yeah, it's hard because nobody really stood out and did anything 100% despicable this time around. It's clearly, other people and some, I don't know. But I wanted to go first too because I just wanted to prove that I'm not just copying you. Because last episode, we had the exact same like and dislike. And I wonder if any listeners were like, he just copied what she said. So it's not the case this time. My favorite this time, I think it's pretty clear. For me, it's clear. It's Jonas. Because he does the most stuff in this episode. And he has that cool scene where he steals the gas. Love that. But the main thing I love is that, the kindness that he's showing his mom and that, taking her through the time and just the way he's interacting with her. I'm loving Jonas, young Jonas and old Jonas this episode. I'm enjoying this young Jonas better in season 2 so far. Jonas is my guy this episode.
Okay, interesting. That's not who I thought. I thought it was going to be Claudia for some reason.
Maybe because it's your favorite, huh?
No, it's not. Claudia's pretty cool, but from here on out, she starts to annoy me. Okay. My best character for this episode is going to go to the girl from the future. Now, I'm sad that I can't, I don't. I know who she is, but yes, for now we just have to call her the girl for the future.
I don't know who she is. It's so unfair.
I like her journey in this episode. I feel like, we saw her at first. She gets the gun butt she gives Jonas the gun butt to the head. She just kind of seems like this fierce general's second in command, who doesn't question things, but we see that she does question things a lot. She feels bad for Jonas. She feels moved by his plight, and she goes against orders and decides to help Jonas, and is sort of going through this this moment of dissonance where she's like, hey, everything I believed and have been giving myself towards is now, perhaps doubt is being thrown upon what I believed. And so now I'm acting in a completely different way. So I thought she just surprised me. The decision she makes, you're not expecting to see that from her.
Yeah. Okay. Cool choice. All right. I wish we knew her name, but I guess if we knew her name, we'd know who she is, and that would spoil things for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, she is looks like she's a buddy pal of my least favorite of this episode. So for my least, I was thinking, Charlotte was acting weird. Clausen sucks. But really, it's Elizabeth, my favorite from last time. I still love her, and I love that one shot we get of her, her neck up. We get like a nice shot of her face, and I'm just so drawn to her. But man, she shot Jonas in the leg, and she's all hung up on this nobody can go in this zone, and I'm going to kill you if you do. Like, I don't know, ease up, Elizabeth. I don't know. I don't like your iron claw you have over these people. And I don't like you shooting Jonas in the leg. I said Jonas was my favorite character. So if you're going to shoot him in the leg, you're going to be my least favorite character automatically. So it's Elizabeth.
At least you're being consistent, Steve. You've already thrown down the gauntlet that anytime anybody tries to kill somebody, they're probably going to get your least favorite. So I like your consistency, your devotion to seeing that through. So I respect that, Steve.
Thank you.
I really do. I don't know. I feel like I really want to give my least favorite to Clausen because he is so annoying. But he's just not important enough to even take up that space.
Exactly.
So I'm going to give it to Egon just because, even though he is trying to... he's continuing this journey to try to complete this case. I just feel like he hasn't grown any. He just hasn't grown. I'm kind of thinking he has. I'm like, okay, he's now gonna see Ulrich, and he's gonna try to make this right. And he's going to hang out with our buddy Ulrich, and they can talk about death metal together. But then instead, he's so short-sighted. He really is. He's just like, you must be a murderer. And that's the... So, Egon, I think your heart is in the right place, but you're just kind of dumb.
You can't argue with that point. So you're right. That's a surprise too, though. You got a couple of shockers in there. Mm-hmm. Like the betting world right now is upset that of your choices because they're.
I don't know. Do you think people are like spending money on this, Steve? Are they gambling, like trying to guess?
In my mind, yes.
That would be amazing.
We have the world's at bay. South Africa is all listening.
This episode overall, what's our overall perceptions of this?
I'm just kind of looking at it as a piece. I mean, I've always looked at like each episode as just like a piece of the puzzle, like a part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this one, I guess not a lot of dynamic things happen, but I kind of like episodes like that where you have like character moments. That's my like favorite thing. So this personally was a great one for me. I loved it. I love the fact that I can once we get off the computer here, I can go watch episode 3 because I'm very excited. I don't know what I'm going to do when we finish season 2 and then I start doing Wheel of Time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to withstand the temptation to watch season 3 and to start getting into dark. It's going to be really tough.
You're going to have to put it aside, put it in a locked box, a metal box with a bag and a gun in it that you store in your drawer.
I like Inez's box better because it had the Tree of Life on it. So that's the box I'm going to use.
Okay. I thought this was there was some filler in this episode, but you also we end on a pretty good cliffhanger being like, what's going to happen to Jonas now? He's gone through the God particle. So that's pretty strong, as well as Claudia digging up this time machine that has been buried. So you're kind of like, man, what's she going to do next now? What's going to be her next step in the story? But yeah, those were the two main things that kind of made it exciting. I guess mainly with Jonas now, going into this unknown, we're like, what's going to happen? Where's he going to end up?
This was the most time travel heavy episode because we saw 3 cases of time traveling going on. And I don't know. I think this, and then you got that whole Jonas scene when he's when he does the thing with the music and he steals the gas. I mean, that scene's a banger. I mean, you can't, I don't know. I'm just, I'm hyping myself up even more. It's hard for me to criticize because I'm just so enamored. So the only thing I could find to criticize, I think I criticized something earlier this episode. I can't remember what it was, but I did my one critique and I'm done. I'm just going to end it with love because, yeah, if it wasn't for that Jonas episode, the Jonas segment, it may not have been as action-packed. I think this was a good episode to throw that in there next week,
Next
episode
week.
3. I think it's called. I saw the title and I liked it, but I can't remember what it was. Can you tell us real quick what the title of episode 3 is going to be? Because I'm helpless.
I can tell you as quickly as I can. So the next episode is going to be called Ghosts.
Yes, that's what I was. Yes, I was excited about that. Just that title makes me think that I hope they see some ghosts. Like, I don't know. We just watched a ghost movie last night, Hereditary. It scared me really bad. I was really mad at Heather and Charlotte for making me watch that because it was really creepy.
Oh man, you're going on such an Ari Aster tour right now.
I guess so. Heather's leading me that way. But yeah, I was mad. I didn't like it. I didn't like Hereditary because it was too creepy and spooky. I didn't want to go outside at night because I was too scared. So I hope this ghost episode next week is not going to be too scary for me. There's going to be Jonas's ghost is going to show up and scare us. But we're going to wrap up, Lindsay. Do you have any plugs this week or any movies you've been into?
Well, the Indiana Jones review is up and running. I also will, for the new Indiana Jones, which is Dial of Destiny. So that is now available on oneofmystories.com. I also am going to be, if you're into speculative films, science fiction, horror, fantasy, I'm going to be covering Fantasia Fest again this year. And one of my first articles needs to be a curtain raiser, so I'll be doing a preview of 5 movies I'm excited about seeing at Fantasia Fest coming up. So this is a Canadian film festival that's all about the weird films, and it's always a really good time. It's actually the first film festival I ever covered, so it's got kind of a special place in my heart. So if you're into those kinds of movies, Fantasia Fest is the Canadian version of just there's another I think there's another one called there's an American festival. So Fantasia Festival though is a good Canadian film festival that features international horror, science fiction, and fantasy movies.
Awesome. That's great. I didn't know about that, so I'm learning with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Steve? What do you got going on?
I've been on a podcast tour. I've been on a bunch of different podcasts. I would like you to check out oneofmystories.com because I think that we're going to be doing a podcast with our boy Nate in the upcoming future. I want to, of course, plug Pyre Fire. They don't have a podcast that I can plug, but they're a great band. And I'm glad they reached out to me, and I'm glad they're returning the favor and listening to Sweet Child of Time and plugging us. I was on the Dead Jesters production podcast, and I think by the time you hear this, that will be released. And I was also on a zombie podcast called We Live, and it's spelled, We Live with an exclamation point at the end. If you just type in We Live, you won't find it. You got to put that exclamation point. Then you'll find it. It's a podcast, and I believe that I'll be on this upcoming Friday's episode. Friday, like July 6th or something. So yeah, just other podcasts is what I'm doing right now. And we plugged our stuff. We're going to get out of here for the night. It's late. So everybody, I hope y'all find some water and shade. I needed some today. I was on the water. There was not a lot of shade, so I really needed some. Lindsay, I hope you always find some water and shade.
Steve, I hope you find water and shade and a nice piece of toast Hawaii to keep your stomach full.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. You too. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.